Welcome to the Devil's Advocrits, where we drink laced sangria.
Except for our sangria was not laced with LSD as it is in the film Climax by Gaspar Noé.
It was laced with cognac.
Yeah,
Here's
it's pretty tasty.
A picture of it. A fun little themed beverage we had there, Evan, over at the Alamo Draft House in Brooklyn, New York, dinner theater. A lot of fun seeing movies there.
They don't sponsor us. We're just saying this because we like it.
No.
But if they want to sponsor us...
I don't know why they would.
I said if they want to sponsor us...
I don't know why they would. Gaspar Noé's new movie Climax is playing at 5 theaters this past weekend, Alamo being one of the 2 in New York, and then I believe there's 3 in L.A. It's the new sort of surreal, it played at Cannes, I believe, horror-ish, dance, musical-ish genre bender of a movie, like truly to the core a genre bender. So it's very hard to put this movie in a box. But as Evan implied earlier, it's about a group of dancers in France. They go to an abandoned, looks like a high school. It's not entirely clear where it is, but it's some sort of school. That's I read in the synopsis that it was a school, and you can see what look like dorm rooms and classrooms and stuff like that. But it's all these dancers who are vying to be a part of this new esteemed academy from this famous woman, this French choreographer. And it's all these young folks, and they come have a party, and they dance a lot, and they drink a lot, and it turns out the drink was laced with LSD, and it's just 2 hours of a bad trip in a very visceral, very down to the minute, very linear way. It's one of those movies where if it's supposed to take place over the course of 87 minutes or something like that, the movie shows you all 87 minutes, and there's not much jumping forward in time. And one of the main ways he achieves that effect is with these extremely long take single shots. This movie is basically made up of a montage, a single take, another montage, and another single take. At the core, it's basically 2 long shots and 2 kind of montagey, interesting bits. And I liked it a lot. I loved it, actually. I thought it was really, really cool.
So one thing to note is that when you do the long takes like that, a lot of times it would be advantageous to also be shooting pretty wide. I think it's easier to keep things looking stable, and you don't have to worry about focus as much. And then when you have a dance movie, that leads to some really cool dance sequences where there's just really intricate staging. They have whatever you're supposed to look at in the foreground, and then just layers and layers of background. One of the first long shots we get is them just practicing their routine. They do it one time before the party starts. And every now and then someone will put up a video essay about why the dancing in The Greatest Showman, not to pick on that movie, but in some modern musical is not very good. And in this case, they're using real dancers, and the dancing is excellent. Before you get to any of the tonal stuff, any of the crazy sort of games that the movie plays with your mind, just hands down, I think we can both agree that the dancing is excellent in this movie, and the way that it's shot really works to support that. It goes hand in hand, being able to see the dancers' full bodies and being able to see how an entire troupe of dancers can interact together.
And it's obviously, I'm not the first one to make this connection. It's pretty clear. Gaspar Noé is not a subtle filmmaker, which is a part of why this movie works so well for me. The first act is a literal dance, we're literally seeing a dance routine, and the second and third acts are a different type of dance. It's the single take are very clearly supposed to be a routine. The movie has a really interesting tone to how the night sort of goes more and more off the rails, and how everyone's state of consciousness kind of slips away from them as the LSD sort of hits more and more and gets stronger. So you're watching these extremely long, seriously 50-minute takes. I think the final shot of the movie is, the second to last shot of the movie is over 40 minutes. Because at the Alamo Draft House, they give you your check. They're hey, 40 more minutes in the movie, so here's your check. And the shot was going before that and lasted until the end of the movie almost. So when that shot happens, it is a different dance that is equally as brilliantly choreographed as the literal dance, because the movie is fully soundtracked. There's almost no time in the movie that doesn't have a techno beat going. Really good, strong soundtrack. And there are people, like Evan said, literally dancing, people tripping on LSD, sort of dancing in the background, and then just people freaking out and fighting physically and verbally, and getting trapped places and running places and falling and laying and doing all sorts of stuff that are all moves. It's all rhythmic body movement that's really trippy, really fun to watch, and always careens sort of around the camera in interesting ways. So it's fun in that way. Like I said, I'm not I'm not smart for pointing this out. It's very obvious, but the movie is about sort of like a choreographed dance and then an even more lively, vivacious, non-choreographed dance that is literally choreographed by Gaspar Noé and the filmmakers and the actors, but it feels off the cuff. It's supposed to feel crazy, and it certainly does. So that's why I was like, it's kind of a musical movie because it's kind of an opera in that way, or it's kind of a, I don't know, what are, like stage theater where the music never stops, like those types of
like you said, opera. And I think the other thing to note, once again, the way that dance changes from being something heavily choreographed to be literal dance within the context of the film to something that is more explosive and mutating of the moment also like parallels both the movies, like 4 little sections, like John said, a montage and then a dance and then a different montage and this different type of dancing, as well as the themes of sort of like how we present ourselves, that sort of self-image and that sort of more composed idea, and then sort of the subconscious id that's racing around that gets unleashed when they do the drugs. Like you have that contrast between the interviews at the beginning, and then you see the people talking with their friends at the party, and it's a little bit looser, and they're revealing their true selves, and then the way that they dance to be seen, the way that they dance when they're just going by their instincts.
Yeah, there's a really fun directness to the movie because you have a very large cast of characters all on display that are all have to sort of really be on their game because of these crazy long shots. Even when they're in the background doing something, they still have to be fully committed to their performance. And so you basically have this directness of like, hey, here's a man. This man is interested in this. Here's a woman. This woman is interested in this. Here's another woman. Here's their relationship. This is a brother-sister. This is a guy dating a girl. This is this is a pregnant person. This is whatever. And sort of you get all that in the beginning, and then you see how those things sort of come apart when everyone is their true self, when they're tripping on acid or whatever, where it's like, okay, that's still true, but oh wow, there's an irony here because this person who used to be doing that, like, I don't really want to spoil anything, but that's a lot of the fun of the movie is you don't have to keep track of all like 17 characters or whatever, but you know enough about everyone so that when you see them later, you recognize like, oh shit, that was the girl that said whatever, and now she's doing this. Like, it's really interesting. I'll also say that this is not a movie for everyone by any means. It's a hard R. It's a very perverse movie. There's a lot of strong violence, sexuality, again, drug content. There's shit with children, shit with like bodily harm, like everything that like could upset you in a movie in a sort of the traditional ways of why people like walk out of movies not because they're bad but because they're upsetting. This movie's got all of it. And I wasn't personally troubled by it because I think it's all done in a way that's not, okay, maybe you could argue it's exploitative and it goes a little bit too far, but it's not totally lingering. Because of the fluidity of the movement, really awful stuff happens in this movie and we don't stay on it. We kind of keep moving, and that's again part of the fun of the LSD stuff, where the movie doesn't exactly make you feel like you're tripping, but it does periphery stuff where it's like, ooh, like, which I would imagine is pretty good at aping that feeling of not being able to focus when you're tripping on drugs, where it's like, oh, all this stuff is happening, but I can't focus on any of it. I have to keep moving. So in that way, like sort of the upsetting content, I think, if you can handle, I don't know, Greta, which we didn't talk about, but I saw, I think something like Greta is maybe worse than Climax, despite all like the hype around like, oh, it's a new Gaspar Noé movie and it's hard R and it's intense and druggy and stuff.
Yeah, I second John's point that certainly movies not for everyone. I think that there is enough intention there. It's worth noting that the film is also a period piece. It takes place in like 1997 or 9, something like that. And you just get the feeling that like another one of the themes is sort of poking fun at the dance community, that like to do dance requires a lot of intimacy and connection to people, but that doesn't mean that there aren't problems beneath the surface. You know, it's very like, it makes me think of like a David Lynch, like Blue Velvet, like, oh, look, Suburbia looks great, but there's something happening beneath it. So you know that there's a lot of intention and irony to going as deep and as far as it goes and just saying this is how messed up all these people are, what they're capable of, and then you have to show some of that to get that mood happening. But funny enough, I think what disturbed me the most was not some of the more obvious big exploitative stuff, but just some of the small details of the way that people react when they are aware that they're on drugs and have no control of stopping it. About like maybe like once the movie gets to that portion where people are in full panic mode, that can be very visceral.
Yeah, and like you said about almost a satire, it also reminded me of just like the things we used to joke about theater majors when we were in college. Like it's funny, it's like Theater Majors the movie, where it's like, look at all these people and like they're all f***ing each other, and they're all doing drugs, and they all love the arts. And it's like, I don't know, that's a fun community for me to watch for 2 hours in a crazy, like, sort of goofy, over-the-top movie. So I give it my full recommendation if this kind of stuff piques your interest. It's the first movie I've seen in a very long time that I really genuinely felt I could have sat for hours more and watched more of, because it is just so delightful. It is so interesting to watch these incredible camera movements, these, brilliant performances. They're not, like, subtle, but they're really fun. They're really committed. And just the goofy writing, the sort of ideas that Gaspar Noé comes in with, where he keeps upping the ante in weirdness. It's very Lars von Trier, where he keeps breaking the narrative, and like literally there are credits throughout the movie. There's like 3 different instances in like the beginning and the middle, and then like twice in the beginning and then once in the middle, and then sort of at the end there's just like credits, and like at one point it's just music credits, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. He definitely wants you to be feeling very weird in the theater and like not know what's going on. And I found it to be wholly effective. I was like, damn, this is a feast for my eyes and my ears, and I just want to sit here for more of this. And I might see it again. So that's a really high recommendation for a weird, trippy, almost experimental, non-narrative movie. So for sure, check it out if you're curious about something like this.
Yeah, I liked it as well. I don't know if I liked it quite as much as John, if only because while it is trippy and experimental, I did find some stretches at the end to be not overwhelming, but just like some of the visuals and the place it gets to made me literally not want to watch for many more hours, because it was too stroby or whatever else. So if you are very sensitive, you get headaches or something like that, just know that going in that a lot of it's going to be a ton of fun, but that it will be very intense by the end of it. So you might like it, but be happy that it's only an hour and a half and not longer.
It's also mostly in French, for whatever that's worth. You don't really notice, though. Anyway, that was our discussion on Climax, a movie that I hope is going to get a wider release, although it's one of those films where I'm like, yeah, I want more people to see it and I want to champion it, but I totally get that this should not accidentally fly in some random small town, middle America movie theater, because it's just not what the people want, unless the people are freaks.
You think of that story where it's like they're gonna show Wonder Park and they accidentally put Climax on instead, and all the little kids see it, and it's a bad time for everyone.
Thanks for watching, guys. We're gonna try some new stuff later this week and next week in the channel, and then obviously Captain Marvel's coming out, and we might be a little bit slow on the discussion for that. But hey, maybe some of the internet angriness will be calmed down by the time we do get a chance to see it, because we have a little bit of a busy week. But stay tuned, subscribe if you haven't already. FX has the movies, Advocrits have the discussions. What else could you ask for?